Oh, ladies and gentlemen, come gather round, come gather round, come gather around. Today, we're going to put a bunch of this back together in anticipation of paint because someone's got to get on it. So imagine it not assembled, and it's going to look like this in a second. Huh? Let's go!
Oh man, where to start? All right. I'll probably try to recap a bunch of stuff that I did on this truck over the past number of months. My goal was to get this thing ready to paint the interior and hopefully get the exterior painted this summer. However, life had a sense of humor and I didn't quite get as far as I wanted to. Nevertheless, here we go. I also have a lot of other videos I'd like to link up above. I'll try to get to it. I can only do 5 links, so by all means check out the playlist and check out some of the other videos. This is a square body front suspension that was sectioned 2 inches. So it's a strip was taken out of the middle to bring all the control arms and everything up 2 inches. The original cross member hung 2 inches below the frame, so by cutting this out, the cross member is flush with the frame. This is from, I want to say, like an 84 Suburban. Doesn't really matter, they're all the same. We've done air ride suspension. I may get a video out showing how to do air ride. You're kind of looking at it right here. I fabricated my own plates to mount the bags. And I'm doing something a little different than everybody else. I'm using single convoluted airbags. In theory, if I'm understanding this correctly, you want the airbag to be at ride height with the bag the same height as the bag would be if it's sitting unloaded entirely. Like if you had the thing sitting on a shelf and the bag sits at rest 5 inches tall, at ride height you want that bag to be 5 inches tall. In this suspension, without modifying the lower control arms, this bag fits. And I don't want to pocket the lower control arms to make it fit. So here we are. And in the back with 2-inch blocks, I can still fit a single convoluted bag. And it fits with the right height I have in the space that I have. I don't care for getting more lift. I do want to maintain a ride height and air out. So that's what we did. Got a big honk and hole cut through the frame to fit 4-inch exhaust because this is a turbocharged 6-liter LS. The frame was shortened from a long bed step side to a short bed step side. I've got videos on how I shortened the frame. I've got videos on how I shortened the bed. In correcting some of the instant center geometry for the rear axle, I flipped the the trailing arm mounts upside down to put the instant center back where it's supposed to be. The step notch is fabricated by me, and it maintains the 4-inch height all the way over the axle, which should maintain full strength of the frame. Lots of fish plating and stuff going on to keep it reasonably strong. The center of this frame was raised, I think 1.5 inches, might be 2 inches, can't remember, because the significantly lowered potential ride height interfered with the floor of the truck, so I had to cut a little chunk out of there. You won't find this on the 64 and up because, or even the 63, they don't use an X frame, so they don't have that big box in the middle. The front suspension's a little different. We've got 88 to 98 spindles, and that does a couple things for us. One is it put the steering tie rods under the steering arm. I'm also installing Fox Body Mustang rack in the front, and to correct the bump steer you need the tie rod ends underneath the steering arm. The 88 to 98 does that for you automatically. But to do that, because the steering axis inclination is wrong, I had to alter the lower ball joints and move them outboard about 3/4 of an inch. So it's a whole schmozzle. And on the forums, guys ask how are you doing this, how are you fitting this, and I can't really explain what I'm doing because it's different than everybody else. Made my own trailer hitch, did my own gas tank mounts, and we're running an S10 Blazer tank from a S10 Blazer. Anyways, that's getting all mounted up. Let's look at some other stuff.
Some parts showed up. That's always exciting. It's like Christmas. The more you buy, the funner it gets. Let's see what we got. Got an exhaust hanger. I think I should have got 2 of these. I can always order another one. Stainless, kind of got a sandwich little bushing thing in there, and they look kind of like this. This part bolts to the frame, this part welds to the exhaust, all stainless. The mounts for the motor are so rigid it should be okay. Got some band clamps for exhaust. Should be a couple laps. This one looks like I guess that's a lap joint. The other one's a butt joint. Butt. 2 lap joints. It looks like this will probably be for the muffler. There's probably a muffler in here. And there is. A lot of muffler options out there. Thing with buying mufflers is whatever you're listening to on the internet might not be exactly what your engine is, and you won't know if it sounds good or sounds bad until you buy it, put it on, and discover how much it sucks. This is MagnaFlow. Because all the exhaust coming out of the turbo is 4-inch, I need a 4-inch muffler. So 7-inch body, I think it's like 20 some odd inches. Uh-oh. And because it doesn't stop there, and because lighting was kind of a suggestion in the 60s to get this over $300 US so I could have free shipping into Canada, also picked up some LED taillights. I'm going to see about having a 3rd brake light on the back of the cab. The purists are going to be disappointed, like I really care. And when I bought the truck, I didn't get any keys with it. Although technically I got keys with it, but the door keys don't open the door and the ignition key didn't turn the ignition. Drove it here anyways, but I got a new key switch with a key in it. Doesn't come with the electrical bits, but I'm going to order the American Auto Wire wiring harness, which comes with the new switch to use your old key. Here's my old key. Another tail light. Stickers, that's worth another 5 horse. And then these beasties are pretty cool. Oh, I kind of wanted them the same color, but this is what they are. These are adapters to change the GM fuel line on the tank to AN fittings. They kind of go like this. They're pretty stupid simple. And it's surprising, as long as you deal with GM, and I'm not a GM fan at all, but I am cheap, and you can sure get a lot of parts for cheap if you're into GM. So this just fits on the end. The original O-ring seals against that. This thing threads in, and now you've got an AN fitting on your fuel line. Same thing with this one. I'm running a 1/2 inch or a -8 for feed, and 6, which is 3/8 return. That just fits in here like so. Threadedy thread. You snug it up, and Bob's your uncle. There you go. AN fittings, don't have to change nothing. Advantage with this, when your fuel pump cacks and you got to replace this, you just change the fittings. You're not kind of screwed. I was debating brazing or bronze welding JIC fittings onto here, but then you risk wrecking the nickel coating and then it corrodes, and that's never going to go well for you. But there we are. AN fittings for the win. This is just a vent, not the vent. This is for the evaporative emissions. It's just a rubber hose, no pressure, no worries. This goes up to the fill so that when fuel's coming in, the escaping air can go back up the fill. That's cool. You always want to run a bump stop, something soft that the axle can hit so it's not hammering metal on metal. Metal on metal will fatigue and break things. So you can get a bunch of different bump stops of a bunch of different lengths. I happen to have 2 here. They're both from Energy Suspension. They're poly. Normally they go through a hole and you put a nut on the other end. There's no way to get a nut in here. So when I built this, I welded a nut in, and then I'm just hoping I can thread this on tight, and I'm hoping it'll stay. Here's going. Of the 2, and there's many different heights, because I'm stupid, I'm going for this one. And it should just thread right in here like so. we hope. And with my luck, it'll probably fall out, and then it'll be metal on metal. Oh, I'm a little scared at the moment. It's feeling a little weird. It's feeling a little weird. Okay, the bump stop is turning, but the threads are not. I don't like the feel of that. All right. Brute force and ignorance. Oh, nice and tight like a tiger. Bump, bump. Other side. So way back at the start of this project, we got a sweet deal on a 6-liter LQ4 Chevy LS, complete with a 4L80E and wiring harness and ECU. The motor got a full going through. I opened up the ring gaps to 28 thousandths, 26 thousandths on the top and 28 thousandths on the bottom, which theoretically is good enough for 28 pounds of boost. The disgusting looking transmission also got rebuilt a while ago and is fully rollerized. Check out the video I have on that as well. Lots of neat stuff to watch. I did put poly bushings in the trailing arms. Poly's not a good thing to put in an arm that needs to move in a couple of different directions. They like to be a bush. They don't want to be compliant in a variety of different axes. However, the trailing arms are so long, it probably isn't going to matter. So I'll find out. I did have issues with poly bushings in the panhard rod, and I changed those to spherical rod ends. I've got a video on that somewhere in there as well. But the trailing arms go in. You can see some of the braided fuel line. Got a 9-inch Ford. I have a video in there on putting a limited slip. Detroit True Track, one of my all-time favorite limited slips, is now inside this 9-inch Ford. It has a nodular iron center section. Changed the axles so I could have 5-on-5 bolt pattern to match the front. And I also fabricated my own disc brake conversion brackets for this. So I'm using Caprice, like mid-90s Caprice rotors with mid-90s Z28 calipers. They have a built-in e-brake. Hopefully it'll work. We'll find out. I've had kind of a hodgepodge of everything on the brakes of this truck. In theory, this is my last truck, not my last project, but this is the truck I want to take to the old folks' home. So I'm trying to do everything that I haven't done before. Boost is one of them for sure, and air ride. Because then, you know, the challenge is done. Notice the remote fuel filter mounted right in the back here. This is an industrial style filter, commercial truck style filter for an Isuzu, I believe. The only place I could find that was a good way to fit the air tank is like this. And it just clears everything, including the drive shaft. The drive shaft was custom made by Bears Performance out of Ontario, I think. I should have that going in relatively soon, I hope. The fuel lines are all stainless braided, and they are polyethylene line, or Teflon lined rather, so that I could run E85 even though there's no E85 in our area. Cab, after, oh man, lots of videos on fixing all the rust on the cab. Check those ones out. The bottom was sprayed with Raptor bed liner. That gray is Ford engine gray. It doesn't match the spray can, but this is, it is what it is. And I'm going to be painting the interior the same color gray as well. The original interior was kind of a sickly silver. Since I have no friends, I have lots of ways of trying to get things all connected. The brake master is from, I think, a 2006 Silverado. It's Hydro Boost, which that will also run the power steering, all off the same power steering pump, I guess. I had Princess Auto make up the hydraulic lines. They did a fantastic job of making all those. Some of these are overkill because the return is clearly not high pressure, but, you know, why not? Let's do it all. And I was lucky I even figured out how these hoses went back in. The center caps for the 88 to 98 spindles and hubs were beaten to death, so I unbeated them just by beating them with a hammer and a piece of pipe to get the nice shape inside there.
They were all painted black. The rotors were painted black. Fresh cut. Put them all on. I've got a video in somewhere in here on prepping hubs and bearings. Scary to think that your entire wheel and brakes are held on by a nut done up finger tight with a cotter pin. Spooky. The control arms here on the front were painted with Eastwood 2K chassis black done from a spray can. A little bit pricey, and these are 8600 GVW 1-ton brake calipers, also from an 88 to 98. This thing should stop super duper well. Woohoo! So these crazy devices here are going to attach to the 2-inch block with a couple screws, and then the disc brake hose fits right in. Fits right in. There we go. And then the parking brake cable comes in through here to apply the Z28 calipers. And then I've got the hydraulic going there and the cable going the other side. Hopefully this works. That took a bit of figuring. And because this brake system is kind of a schmozzle of everything, just to make sure we don't hit the brakes and slide sideways backwards into a guardrail, we're adding a adjustable brake proportioning valve in a nice, not easy access from the driver. Got a video in there somewhere on brake proportioning valves as well. So many videos, so little time. What to do? Well, subscribe and leave a comment. Check them out.
So as we wrap up this video, this is kind of where we're sitting with the whole project. I've got the bed sitting here with fenders and junk and the nose and all this. All of this has been blasted and painted. And the bottom of the bed is Trex composite decking, because if I'm hauling a 454, I don't want to wreck that burl walnut bird's eye maple with an inch thick of bar Varathane. I just want something cheap, and Trex board is pretty good. Trex is a little flexible, so I added an extra cross member in there, so it should be okay. The fenders, inner fenders are here. This is a little hole for the cutout for the turbocharger. That's got to be welded in and then re-epoxied. I haven't done the other inner fender yet. Running into some challenges with that. The original door panels are still to be blasted. We got the gas tank in there. That's an O2 for my Super 7 and solid fuel. Nope. Brake lines, because I got to run the brake lines here, and you can see all the AN fittings hooking up all of this. Got the air line happening in here. Got this thing sitting on air. We got that crazy brake fitting in here. I've been trying out the air system with this. I can air the whole thing up. 100 PSI seems to be pretty good for the front. It doesn't seem to be too stiff. I know a lot of the guys doing like air ride, they want it to ride like a cloud. I want it to handle too. Lots of videos on fixing rust. I'm not going to bore you with that here. Inside, these are Honda Civic bucket seats stolen out of my kid's piece of crap Honda Civic. The seats were decent, and I know the purists like, it's got to be a bench or nothing. These are comfy, and I like comfy. So I do have video on making the seat frame in here. I'm going to do a jump seat in the middle with flip down and cup holders using the back seat from my kid's Honda, so the upholstery is the same, so I can seat 3 abreast. Leave a comment in the video. Leave a video in the comment. If you want to know about how to make a seat bracket for this, let me know. Got a little bit of the turbo piping down there that goes underneath. I'm in the process. Again, you purists, you're going to hate me, and I don't really care. Yeah, it's not going to be one of them fancy stock looking stereos, because these are freaking cheap and work freaking good. And when it dies, I can buy another cheap one really good. So that means I'm going to cut out the dash and make that work, and you're going to be a sad panda. Don't care. I need to listen to tunes when I'm driving my vehicle. And you're like, it's not like a hole in the dash is what's separating this truck from originality. There's another little extra, and I confess, I've been enjoying just working on this without videoing it, because this is my escape. I don't build this for readership. This is my escape. back to this. I cut a bunch of extra spots in here. So there's a bracket underneath that'll hold two 5¼ inch speakers in there. And so I widened out the slats to fit those speakers, which is pretty cool. Front's doing pretty good. We've got, I should take this off. Always keep your old shower curtains. 88 to 98 spindles, modified control arms, Fox body Mustang, 6-liter LS, all, well, new rings and bearings and whatnot. ARP head studs, LS 9 head gaskets, can't remember. VS Racing 7875 turbo and kit. Jeep Grand Cherokee Steelies, which pull the wheels back in because the 88 to 98 spindles and the ball joints move the wheels out, and the Jeep Grand Cherokee front wheel drive offset pulls the wheels back in, so this thing can steer full left and full right when aired out. The bed had a bunch of work done. This was all hammered straight, pushed all back in and shrunk so that it's solid again. The fenders are getting ready for stuff. I got a whack of different parts in here, and I'll get there eventually. On the far end of the shop, sitting against here, we've got the hood that's had all the rust repaired, the dents taken out of it. We've got the rad support, which one of the last pieces I did was fixing the rust on the bottom of that. I didn't really video that, although I did. I'm rambling. So that's where we are so far. My goal is to get, the next step is to get the interior painted so that I can put everything on it and paint the exterior. So that's going to be a lot of sanding and filling. I'm not looking forward to that. It'll probably be a short video or a really sped up one. At any rate, I appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. Leave a comment of anything you want to see that I haven't covered yet, stuff you'd like to see that I'm not going to do. And we'll get back on this pretty soon. Thanks for watching. Take care.